Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Small Business Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm here with my co host and my business partner, Kyle. How's it going?
Good, it's going great, man. Happy 4th of July, everyone. As you can see, we're rocking some matching t-shirts. So yeah, I'm super excited about today's podcast. This is something that I feel like it's super important to talk about, and I'm really excited to dive right in. Today we're going to be discussing what a niche is and how you can apply it to your business.
Yeah, dude, I'm super excited about this topic too. You know that. I mean, we talk about niche all the time. That's right. Finding your niche, it can be the key to standing out in a crowded market, and it's really all about connecting with your customers, who they are, and how to connect with them on a deep level to get them to come do business with you. So
Yeah,
I guess you know what? I guess first things first. I know what a niche is. We talk about it all the time.
yeah.
Right. So, but a lot of our listeners aren't going to know necessarily. So let's give them some type of a solid ground to a solid foundation. For those of you out there listening that know what a niche is, and some of these things may be a little bit irrelevant to you just because you already know, I apologize. Let's get into this for the rest of our listeners, and then we'll get into some fun stuff.
Yeah, 100%. So I have the textbook definition of what a niche is right here. A niche is a specific segment of a market that you target with your products or services. It's all about focusing on a particular group of customers with unique needs and preferences. Now, I know that's pretty standard textbook definition that leaves out a lot of the nuances of what a niche is and how to build out a niche. So that's where we really want to focus on helping explain to everyone today.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. You know, let me ask you this: what was your understanding the first 5 minutes we talked about what a niche was?
So, from the first 5 minutes of us talking about what a niche was, it was really just find like when you're building something, making it specific. When you're building your business or your brand, it's finding a specific thing to hone in on. That was the first thing that really connected in my head. Like, but also not super specific to where you're like cutting off a lot of people. You know what I mean? I think finding that middle nuanced area, that's the tricky part about finding a niche. And I think that's the first thing that I gravitated towards when we were talking about it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. And that makes a ton of sense. On a broader spectrum, when you look at niche, a lot of people, when they say, I need a niche, they'll say, okay, my niche is I'm going to sell t-shirts. And it's like, okay, what's your niche? Your niche, what's your actual niche? So that's your product. They're like, oh, well, I want to sell, um, you know, like we want to sell Dance Mom t-shirts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. That's a pretty specific niche. You're selling a specific type of design to a very specific person. That's a really tight. That's almost like I guess, a micro niche. Um, but it's, there's people that sell like only travel cups and drink cups with for military people. That's a hyper specific niche. It's when you are able to get into something like that, it really makes it so you can hone in and become an expert in that finite little piece of that niche, right? I feel like a lot of people get lost in the sauce because they decide to start a business. They go out and they're like, cool, what do I want to do? And then they get stuck and they're like, well, this is what everyone else is doing, or this will make me a lot of money, I think, or this or that. But niche is really irrelevant, honestly, if your heart's not into it and you're not passionate about it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of steps that really go into finding the right niche for you because it's definitely not the same for everybody, right? Like I said, I mean, you can have someone that wants to sell, uh, those travel mugs, right, with military stuff for like all the different ranks in the military, just for military people. And there's people that want to sell them just for dance moms, and there's people that want to try to sell mugs for everyone, and they have 8,000 categories to choose from, right? Which is better? There's arguments for every side, right? Just like anything. So
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And another thing, adding on to what you were saying was, also really defining your niche really helps with a lot of marketing efforts and finding your demographic that you wouldn't normally get if you're just like, I'm gonna brand this to everybody. You know what I mean? Where if you find the target people that you want, like the demographic of people that you want to target, that it really helps you market towards those said people. And that's something that you're able to build your brand on and your company on, which I think is another undervalued thing that doesn't really get talked about a lot when you're talking about niches.
yeah, 100%, right? So like look at our business for example, right? we can expand into many, many niches, and we already have expanded into several new niches, right? But we can expand in a lot of different ways. But you need to find something you're passionate about. We found that. You need to find something you're good at. We found that, right? And then it's how do we break it down to make it so that we can have a good place to start? Dude, anybody, if you have enough money, anybody can start big and go after the world or a whole broad niche, right? But dude, like we're not Amazon, right? Who's got that kind of money? So we're talking about small businesses and how you can capitalize, right? Well, we need small business owners who are starting with, even if you have money, it doesn't matter. You're starting with something, an idea, and you need to really become the master at that thing. So you have to start somewhere. So micro niche down and find the thing that is sought after the most of the things that are not available, and start that as your micro niche, right? And it's easier once you pick like dance industry. I'm like, cool, dance industry. I know that what we do is a major issue in all different types of businesses, right? So the dance industry was the hardest hit and the most affected. So we started there first. Plus, we have a lot of experience in it, right? So, but I'm also passionate about it because, right? So are you, because we had so much involvement throughout your entire life with your sister.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really needs to be a combination of something you're passionate about, you understand, and you think is really going to work. And honestly, even if it doesn't, who cares? You know what I mean? So it's because no matter what, if you have a business idea and you push in on it, it will work. You just need to figure out the little nuances on how to make it pop, right? A lot of people have really good business ideas. 90% of businesses go out of business within 5 years. It's not because they're bad ideas. It's implementation, bad implementation, or actually more to the point, it's bad follow through, right? There's implementation issues along the way, but at the end of the day, if you start your own company and you start out right, you're not like us, right? You're not dumping copious amounts of money into it. You focus on the niche and you grind on it hard and become the king of that micro niche, right? And then you can expand from there. It becomes much easier to slowly take over the world that way. So, so to speak, take over the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, for you to take over that niche, right? And really get your piece of the pie. Because every pie is already cut up and divvied up and people have it, right? There is no such thing as a new idea. You can have a new approach. You could do, like, we took like 5 different things, put them together, smashed it for like a year with a sledgehammer, and then slowly pieced it back together, right? And made this really, really cool new thing. But there's people doing some of the things that all these things we did, people were already doing them, and we smashed something new. But even the new thing we made, there's some people doing a version of what we do. It's not the same. That's okay. Everyone's different, right? Our things are what make us special, and we need to lean into that. And right, a lot of people, when they start out a business, they spend so much time trying to get somebody on board with them that isn't really interested, right? People need to learn where to pull the plug. I am the CEO of my company, Kyle's VP, right? I'm on the phone every day talking to cold calling people, cold emailing people, talking to people every day. People say, I'm not interested. I go, oh, okay. I'll talk to them, ask if there's anything, and generally talk to them, but it's not to try to convince them to come to us. It's to get more market insight, right? I very nicely thank them for their time and just move on, because they have a solution. They're not interested for whatever reason, whether it's a bad moment in their life, whether I just caught them at a bad time. I'll send them a follow-up email just so they have it, and I'll let them know. And they're like, yeah, that's fine, right? But at the end of the day, who knows? Who knows? They could be getting ready to sell their business. They don't want to be involved. They're getting ready to retire in 2 years. There's a million little things that could cause them to not be interested. I am not going to sit there and try to convince that person to sign up for something that makes sense, right? I'm a sales guy through and through. I've been for a long time. And the biggest problem, I've been wildly successful. The biggest problem people have is they don't understand when to cut bait, right? So if you're starting out a business, especially somewhere you're in a tight little niche, a super tight, like a micro niche like we are, dude, just go for it. Just grind in. I'm not interested. Okay, cool. Make a note and circle back to him in 6 months or a year after you've grown. Go and get the go get some of the cream off the top. The people you really really want from day one are the people who are just the reason we start as businesses because people need us. Everyone doesn't need us, but there are businesses out there that actually need us, right? And I know that because I call them and I'm like, hey, this is what we do, and they're like, cool. How fast can you get it launched and set up and blah 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 blah. And I have an email before I even get off the phone with them with their logo, right? Like
Yeah.
some people need it, so let's go out and seek those people, right? Everyone else can be a callback later on when we get money and we're starting to do more marketing. We can go after them. Some people need more to be. They need more meat behind who you are, or time, or they don't want to talk to you until you have 100, a couple of hundred clients. And some people are like that. Some people need a call. Some people don't like calls. They need an email. Some people need this. Some people need that. Everything's different. We might have just hit them with the wrong medium. So we just we skip and go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get a micro niche, hammer it hard as humanly possible, the easiest way possible, and spend as little money as possible. Go to the freaking yellowpages.com, type your niche of the businesses that you do. Like if you're like we do business with business owners. Go to yellowpages.com, search for dance studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then just go down the list and call every single one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard, right? I do that, and we get several signups a day by doing that. I just take hours a day. I go down the list, just bang, 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 bang. Follow up with emails, leave them a voicemail, right on to the next one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we track on the back end emails, make sure to see who's doing what, and then continue to follow up that way. But at the end of the day, it's just go after the cream of the crop. Go after the cream, or I'm sorry, go after the cream that's sitting on the top, and just gently scoop it off. They're going to be very happy. So you look long term, right? You do that now. You're building a base of wildly, wildly happy customers. People, generally speaking, business to business sales, they only want to do business, or anyone. They like the more business you do with people they know or in your industry, the more likely people are to do business with you, right? If those people are happier, it goes up by like 100-fold. So if we're going out, we're scraping all the cream off the top. The people that really need us, and as soon as we call them, they're like, "Oh yeah, let's do this." They really, really need us, right? And they love our solution because we get it done, we put it in place, and they're so happy, right? Every one of those people is in a year from now. Every one of those customers or clients, I should say, is going to be a cheerleader for us, right? People are going to call, like, "Oh, you do business in this place? Oh yeah, they're the best. You got to call Josh. He's blah 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 blah." Call him, tell him Mary said to give you a call. Tell him this, tell him I told him, whatever the case may be. And I'm like, "Oh, Mary's great, blah blah blah," right? And we just chat for a while, and all that stuff will happen. It will come, right? But set yourself up for success from the beginning. If you fight and scrap and struggle to get every single client on board, you're going to have more client issues because their expectations are going to be a lot higher because you had to promise more because you're fighting to get them on board. So you have to promise more, and then you're going to give them more. Otherwise, they're not going to come on board, right? Why do that to yourself out of the gate? Why put these roadblocks and hurdles in place that could ultimately be your downfall in 2, 3, 4 years from now, right? So it's not just find a niche. It's you have to take this super honed in approach, right? It's really just that simple.
Yeah, no, it really is. And yeah, it's like you said, and that was the next point I was going to touch on, but you talked about it in there, is when you really hyper get in there on your niche, it also really helps you see your competition and then be able to top them because you have a hyper specific niche and a demographic and a go-to marketing area that you already have a grip on because you've done the research and you've figured it all out. You know what I mean? And you touched on that a little bit with what you were saying. So I think you said that perfectly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, dude, I mean, well, like this business was 4 years in the making, like the first like 2.5 years was literally all R&D. Sam, try this, try that, try this, try that, because what we were doing was so different than what was available technologically. So we had a lot of extra hurdles to jump through, right? But I never wavered from day one. We never wavered because we knew it was just a matter of when, not if, right? Because we did the research, we really dove in. We have competitors out there right now. I don't care. I don't care because our niche, we do enough things differently than them that they don't do, that we already have that separation, right? A lot of businesses don't have that separation. So if you're one of those businesses, find a way to create that separation. It's really not that hard, right? Go look at all your competitors, see what they're all doing, right? Say, what do they do that's different than competitor A, competitor B, C, D, E, right? Look at like your top 5 competitors. What do they all do that's similar? But more importantly, what does this guy do that this one doesn't? What does this one do that this one doesn't, right? And then take all those things, right? And then say, okay, what can I do that does as much of this as humanly possible within the constraints of what you have in that micro niche, right? What of this can I cover in this micro niche that all these guys are covering so I can have all this? And then what are the separating things that really make a difference? Right? That statement is going to make people go, I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. Right? Like, for real.
Yeah. No,
They don't know how to, they don't understand the, look, this is what people don't understand. What are the things that you like as a consumer? It doesn't matter as a regular consumer or as a business to business person. What is the number one thing that you like, right? Customer service.
I think, yeah.
For me, it's customer service, right?
Mm-hmm. No, by far, yeah. So that was going to come out of my mouth with customer service. I mean, that's number one. If you have bad customer service, who wants to do business with you? You know
I'll
what I mean?
pay a little bit more money to go somewhere else because their customer service is really good, especially on B2B stuff, right? But I actually, you know what? No, I shouldn't. That scratch that. On everything, I will go anywhere and spend a little bit more money with the next place because all customer service. You know what I mean? That place you go to, that restaurant you go to, that the waitress always comes over regularly and checks how you doing at appropriate times, not like every 5 minutes, but you know, like, wow, they're really attentive right now, right? They're doing a great job. And then you go back to that same restaurant several times over the course of a year. And every time you go, you get a different server, but every single time you get the same service. Right?
Yeah.
That place, that becomes one of my new favorite top 5 restaurants because of that. Well, I mean, obviously, as long as the food lines up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We live in foodie town, but
as long as the food's good and the customer service is great, like that's all you ask for, you know what I mean?
I mean, you know, it's just, and the food cannot be as good as the next place either. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. I mean, not bad, but it's hard to explain, man. It's little things that make a difference, right? Being there for us, being there for our business to business clients, right? Being there for our regular customers. This is dual sided. We're B2B and B2C, right? So we do the same thing on both sides. Everybody feels the weight of who we are. Anytime there's the most minute little thing, right? You don't wait for people to reach out to you. Don't wait for anything. Dude, we had a shipping issue, right? Remember, our website went wonky. We do free shipping on everything. Doesn't matter. $20. We're like Amazon, baby.
Yeah.
Free shipping, right? Except we had an issue where our website just randomly started charging shipping. Not on every order, just on some.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was fun.
So we noticed it immediately on the first time it happened. We noticed it and immediately issued a refund, sent a letter. Hey, so sorry about this happened, blah, 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 blah. We refunded the money already. We corrected the issue. We've corrected our issue. You know, and we sent them like a gift certificate or something like that, just as like an apology.
Yeah.
And then we reached out to the studio, you know, the business, told them what happened, just so you know, because we deal with all the customer service issues, but it's their customer. So we reach out to them, right? And all that happened in a matter of like 2 minutes as soon as it happened, right? staying on top of things like that is that like showing you care means everything. There's a reason that small businesses take up so much. They consume so much of our actual economy, right? Because people like small businesses. They like mom and pop businesses. They like the service. They like going in and they know the people working there and the people know them, right? Dude, I go to a corner store all the time. When I go to a corner store, if I don't have time to have a conversation, I go to a different corner store because when I go to this corner store, I always like to talk to. I talk to the guy. I'm like, hey, how's it going? We catch up a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like it's not just going to the store to grab a quick thing. It becomes an experience. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's about. People that don't care about like this or that or busy, they'll go to Walmart, they'll go here, they go there. They don't care. There's no right. They just want the best deal. There's people like that, but there's a lot more. But those people, in turn, right, when they have time, because maybe they're too busy, or when they have extra money, they will spend it at. They will start spending it at small businesses. I promise you, I see it all. I've seen it all over the last 25, almost 30 years of my professional life. I've seen it on a regular, consistent basis, and it's the one constant that is always true.
Yeah.
When it comes to art.
No, no. I mean, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Like it's, I mean, like finding your niche is just it's just more than just being like, this is what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? It's like it's a lot more than that. A lot more than the definition we read in the beginning. It covers a broad scope of a lot of different things that it just has one name. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most confusing part that a lot of people don't understand is that it's more than just, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to market to these people. It's so much deeper than that, and it's on a whole different level. You know what I mean? I think that's where everyone's hold up and hang up really comes into play when you talk about niches.
Cool. Well, how about this? Let's take a second and play out how we landed on our niche.
Yeah, 100%. Right? I agree.
I'll leave all the personal career out of it and all that stuff. I said, okay, I'm ready to start a business. Let's go. Right? My wife, who's amazing, backs me on everything I do. She's like, it's about time. Just go do your thing. I'm tired of you doing this for other people. Go do it for yourself. I'm like, all right, cool. So that's what we did. So I said, okay. She's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? I'm not like an ads guy or an e-commerce guy or this or this or this. You know what I mean? Like I'm a business person. I don't know. I'm going to do something to make some money. I'm going to change the world. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
So I took a little time and I'm like, okay, let's start broad. I want to open an e-commerce store because I don't want to have a brick and mortar. There's a lot of stuff that comes along with it. Digital e-commerce is the way of the future. So I'm gonna open an e-commerce store where I have some experience but not a lot, right? I'm like, cool. Where do you start? So I started by doing research on all the platforms, which one is the best, right? Found out the one that was best for me. It's different for everyone. I do personally recommend Shopify, especially for startup people. It makes a lot of sense. If you want to dabble in something, do like a little store and just sell stuff, reach out to us. We can throw a little sample store together for you to kind of test the market and stuff like that. You get sales, you make money on it, it's all good, right? At the end of the day, like, well, I'm like, okay, so we want to open an e-commerce business. What kind of stuff? We play around with different things like moms and dads, like do like t-shirts and some fun stuff, right? Like, okay, everyone's doing that. And we're going to have to spend like thousands and thousands and thousands upon thousands of dollars on marketing. And on average, to sell the t-shirt on average, it costs almost $8 in marketing per t-shirt sold because the market is so flooded. And that was at the time I did the research. I think it was actually like 732 or something.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you're bringing up right now. It's something I want to talk about a little bit deeper too. Is that if your beginning ideas don't really work out the way that you intend them to, that doesn't mean just give up and stop. It might mean that you just have to change your niche a little bit. You know what I mean?
How about this? How about this? Not that you need to change it. That just means that the niche you picked, the scope, the level of scope you're looking at right now is too broad, right? The end goal can still be that broad. So you say, okay, I like this niche, but I need to change it. You don't necessarily need to change it. You need to look and see, can I tighten it? And is there a way I can really find a micro niche inside this niche? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
If you think the answer is no, look up my number, 716-201-0230. Hit me up. I would love to have that conversation with anybody at any time. There's a way to micro niche
Mm-hmm.
any industry. If you can't find it, hit me up personally, call me or text me, and then we'll set up a meeting and I will help you do it.
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah. I mean,
you
like,
just gotta
yeah.
go down, down, down until you're like, okay, this is a comfy place, right? I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
This is micro. This is a smaller, not as broad. And
Yeah.
micro
And
niche
yeah, it's like you
come
said.
together too. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Mhm.
You're not
No,
wrong.
no, you're good. And we were talking about before too, like I was mentioning, like it could be that it's too small. Like you're kind of cutting off a lot of your potential clients because you've centered you've made it too specific. You know what I mean? And it's finding that sweet middle spot. That's always going to be there no matter what. Like you'll be able to have that. It's just a matter of tweaking and figuring out until you find it, which is something that we did as well,
Yeah,
and that ended up working out for us. And then if you start expanding from there and hopping into other niches or broadening your niche a little bit, that's what you're about to get into. I know I heard you. That's why I wanted to talk about it a little
yeah,
bit. That's definitely something that you can evolve and get into. But in order to do that, you have to start small. That's what we did. That's what a lot of the big companies around that you see today, they all started small. You know what I mean? Like I always circle back to Nike. I know a lot about Nike, as you probably can tell. I'm a big sports guy, and so Nike started off with just running shoes. That's the only thing they made was just running shoes. And now look at them; they're one of the biggest corporations in the world. You know what I mean? Because they just started slowly expanding out, expanding out, expanding out to basketball, to football, and then to all sports. You know what I mean? It's definitely something that is super interesting, and that's what you just gotta find your micro niche first, and then expand from there.
100%. And that's a great example, right? Nike, when they
Mm-hmm.
came out with running shoes, how many companies had running shoes when Nike came out with their running shoes? What was it?
Yeah,
Was
not
it? I
that
think it was
many.
the early '80s when they came out with their first
Mm-hmm.
pair of running shoes. How many companies had running shoes? Right? It
Yeah,
was a
not that
niche.
many. That's why they decided
It
to
was
do
a
it.
piece of their world that needed to be filled. So they filled it
Mm-hmm.
and then expanded from there. Right?
Yeah,
Think about it on a smaller scale. We started. I'm like, we want to open an e-commerce store. We want to sell shirts. Okay, that's not gonna. And then okay, cool. And then we're like, wow, that's way too broad. We're gonna have 5 million categories. It's gonna take 100 years to build this thing, right? Without paying someone a copious amount of money. So how do we bring it down? So we brought it down, brought it down. Then it's like, well, just these categories, then t-shirts, then this thing, then that thing. I'm like, okay, this is still way too broad. And I'm like, oh, so an event happened in our life with somebody that we're close, a business owner that I'm friends with, and in the dance industry. And I'm like, hey, I can use my platform and do this maybe as like a fundraiser to help them raise money to cover some flooding expense that the insurance didn't cover, right? Um, and that's what sparked the whole thing. So then I said, okay, well, I'm like, well, why don't I just do this specifically for the dance industry? Niche it down, right? I'm like, wow, I felt
mm-hmm.
like the whole world just opened up to me. I felt like my brain exploded. Then I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
So I'm like, cool. Then I just kept niching it down. I'm like, we'll just make like t-shirts and hoodies for dance studios with their logos on it and stuff, right? That was way too tight. Way, way, way too tight. So I'm like, no, we need to offer more than that. So we brought it up. We expanded what we offer, right? So then it's logo merchandise on all kinds of stuff, right? Then we expanded it. Then we kind of broadened and expanded more to accessories and fun accessories. And now we have every store has hundreds and hundreds of products, right? We have thousands. Oh my, I want to say over 5,000 SKUs available to pull from. Um, so, and then we're like, okay, what do our competitors do? All of our competitors are like 3 weeks is your stuff will be there in 3 weeks. With us, average 9 to 12 days, right? We found ways to get around all these things. So people are like, oh, I like if they're comparing us to our competitor, right? They say, well, they take 3 weeks, you take two. They pay every 6 months, you pay monthly, right? They're really small, insignificant things some of these things that we did, seemingly insignificant, that amounted to a lot,
mm-hmm.
right? So once we got the niche platform right, of the right balance of stuff, and honed it down to that, dance industry, we're offering like logo merchandise. We're offering it personalized, unpersonalized, free personalization, free logo, free shipping. Right? We
Mm-hmm.
have all these cool accessories. Now we have like dance mom categories, dance dad categories. I think we have like 10 categories, probably 8 to 10 new categories that we're dropping this summer. Like, um, I'm not even gonna get into all that, but anyways, like we have all this new stuff we're dropping, right? It's all stuff that's expanding on our niche, on our micro niche, which also is things our competitors aren't doing. But even if they were, it doesn't matter. I don't care. We have our own market and clientele base, and we're expanding on our niche now, right? Because we got a good enough base, so now we can expand it out in this way by dropping new lines and all these other things, which are going to help bring other people on board, right? So initially, we weren't offering to moms and dads and all this other stuff, right? But I didn't care.
Yeah.
We just needed to get this off and make sure it works. It did, cool, and then ride that for a while. Now we got to a new growth phase, and we added some things, right? And now we're getting ready to add some more things, right? And it's all about the growth of our own personal micro niche that we created that started as a store where you have basic clothing, leggings, pants, sweatpants, shorts, hoodies, t-shirts, crew necks, right? That was it. To now we have like all this crazy stuff, but we had to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere that makes sense. So that's what we did. We went way, way down, brought up a little bit. We stopped, went and pulled all the cream that we could and built on that. Then we stopped. Then we added. Then we went and pulled all the more cream from a new area. Did the same thing and built up. And now we're adding, right? We're adding all these new categories and all these other things as well. This is not a pitch for our business, right?
Yeah.
We add all these other things. And now we're in the phase of continuing to scrape all the cream from the last change that we made and the initial launch. We're still pulling cream from them, right? And now we're adding these new categories in, so it's just going to give us more cream to pull from, right? A bigger group. We're going to be able to pull more cream in because these new things are going to be exciting to more people that weren't excited initially. But we couldn't start that way. We couldn't, because think about where we are now.
Yeah.
If we were doing it this way now, it would have been way too much work, and we would have went under because of the.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So most people understand you got to micro niche it down because they end up putting so much workload on themselves that they can't handle it themselves, and then they have to hire someone. But they can't hire someone because they don't have money, because they don't have money coming in, they don't have the revenue, and they end up eating up their savings account if they have one, and then it just becomes a big problem. Or they're working 20, 22 hours a day, and they can't think straight, even though they think they can because of sleep deprivation, right? And you're making bad decisions or not well thought out decisions, right? And it all just creates this massive chaos, which ends up in 90% of businesses going out of business in the first 5 years, right?
Yeah, I mean that was a big problem for us too, was getting everything in the beginning, especially. Now we have things streamlined, but in the beginning it was like, okay, what products are we going to offer? And we're still building on that today. I mean, it's a constant, but we've had to be like, all right, we build out a store. We're like, okay, that took way too long for one store. You know what I mean? Like it's a constant streamlining of what we're doing in our niche, and constantly trying to be like, all right, this is what we're going to do. Now we feel comfortable expanding.
Yeah.
And then if we expand and we're like, ooh, this is too soon, we still have time to pull it back. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's always a constant, like, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. Oh, let's pull this back a little bit and set it back a little bit further. It's all just balancing where we're at with our niche and all that kind of stuff too. So I wanted to touch on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think the biggest thing is people go in, they're like, I want to start a business. I want to be an entrepreneur. It's cool. It's fun. It's not. It's not. I promise you.
You're busy, dog. Let me tell you. You are busy.
Being an entrepreneur is romanticized in an insane way, right? And this is not just from my personal experience. This is from my business experience, having a close personal relationship with a lot of business owners over a lot of years. It's highly romanticized, right? It's, but it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of everything. The idea is to get to a place where it's not a lot of hard work. The problem is everyone wants to get there quick. So like, how can I make a lot of money fast so I can get here? There is no magic button to push, right? People think they found that button by getting investors, but that's not that magic button, right?
Yeah.
Even still, no investor, it doesn't matter. Which, by the way, you should not use an investor as long as humanly possible, right? We still don't have one, and we most likely will never have one. I'm not against investors. I'm actually for investors, but there's an appropriate time for a business to take one on. You really need to have as much of
Yeah.
your groundwork laid out and be running as smoothly as possible before you go into an investor. Because if you want to make a major change after you take an investor on how you like the scope of how you do business, I'll say most likely could get very sticky and will
Yeah, I
involve
mean that was
a lot of paperwork and like it can be a nightmare.
and yeah, and that was our big decision for us to make too, because we're like, would it be beneficial? Yes, obviously it'd be beneficial. You know what I mean? But we were like, we knew at that time that we were going to be streamlining and making changes, and that's just kind of who we are as
Yeah,
well. Like we like spicing things up a little bit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And we knew that we wouldn't be able to do that with an investor or bringing else someone else on, because they're going to have a say. And at the end of the day, it's ours. But if you bring on an investor, you know what I mean. We have to listen to that too, and so
to,
that's why we made that decision.
right, to a point. You know what I mean? And
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
so, but we didn't go the investor route. For us, the investor route didn't make sense. For other businesses, it does. It makes tons of sense,
Hmm.
right?
I was going to touch on that too.
For
Yeah.
some businesses, they have it's a long term return. Our business model is not a long term return, right? We have a decent margin. We have a reasonable margin, I guess, decent, reasonable, whatever you want to call it. That, but there isn't a long term tie up of cash flow because of the way we have our business designed. So we don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars in a bank account so that we can do, $500,000 worth of business, right?
Yeah.
Because of strategically the way our business is designed. So if a lot of businesses in that, well, I need this much money to get things going, but I'm not going to see a dime of it back for like a year. But I need employees and I need this and I need this. That's a very different situation. However, the same thought process should be followed. Make sure every little thing is figured out, every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and everything is functionality the way that you want it to be. Obviously, tweaks and things like that are going to happen. What I'm talking about is major infrastructural changes. Like, small business owners need to be able and ready and willing at any moment to get hit with a issue like that. We all say we're not putting fires all day. We get hit with a fire that's
Yeah.
so big, we're like, wow, we got to stop and pivot. We can't put this out. Let's work around it because this is just going to continuously happen over and over and over, right?
Yeah.
I live in Florida and it's 100 degrees in the summertime, and the mulch that we use is highly flammable and keeps catching a fire, right? Do I put the fire out and just keep putting the same mulch down? No, I get different mulch, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but I will make massively, like I apologize. Kyle and I, or we, will make massive, big changes like that. That would make
Yeah.
a lot of people sick to their stomach. At
Hmm.
the rapid way and pace that we'll make a really big decision and implement. And it's not that it's the decision has fallen on, like, it's not like it's a decision made without a lot of thought or care. But there's no like big businesses. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of dancing around and okay, let's do it. And then it's a lot of we're like, this makes sense. This is why. Let's get it done and figure it out and implement it, and then figure out everything as we go and make sure it's set. And then we do that and make sure it works, and then it goes live immediately. No mess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I mean, we do pull the trigger a little bit early on a lot of decisions, but we're like, you know what? Let's just do it. I mean, we're still earlier on. You know what I mean? Like,
Public service announcement. Public service announcement. People,
go for it.
you need to start pulling triggers earlier if you own a freaking business, right?
Hmm.
You need to stop overworking employees and hire a new one. Don't ride that employee out until they're dead or almost like burned
Yeah.
out before you hire someone because they can handle it. Pull the trigger sooner. Look, when we need employees, we're pulling the trigger sooner. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. You don't necessarily have to bring on a full-time employee. Get a freelancer to help you remotely, something, anything. There's things you can do to mitigate the expense, but bring someone on early. If you don't, I'm not even talking about burning out the employee. That'll affect your business in a negative way. But if you don't start pulling triggers on employees early and on decisions early, right, then it's going to hurt you in the long run, or it's going to take you longer to catch up to the rest of the pack, right? every industry, every niche, every industry you get into, other people are doing it. You don't want to be the guy. You don't want to be You don't want to be the person or company behind everybody else, right? If it's available to me, it's available to everyone. Guess who's the most successful with AI integrations, right? The people that started doing it day one, not the people that started doing it 2 weeks ago or even 2 months ago, right? Like, you got to pull the trigger on things early. You say, hey, AI is pretty cool. That's going to get big, right? Everyone agrees this is going to be some big thing. It's here to stay. Even people are like, oh, this is, even they're like, oh, yeah, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, right? So why is everybody not jumping on it and finding a way to use it in their business? There's tons of tools, and they're free, by the way. If you look hard enough, there's a million tools out there for free. Start using it, start figuring it out. Even if you can't implement it right away, use it, test it, play around with it, figure out all the little weird, quirky things, all the intricacies, and then learn all about it. Because as it expands, there's going to be things that are going to be relevant to your business. And if you keep your knowledge base up on the future, AI is the future and a big part of future of business. If you keep your eye on that and you stay up to snuff, when something comes out that can be used in your business, you'll be able to recognize that it's even a thing and that you're going to be able to use it for your business. And it won't take long to figure out how to do it and test it and then implement it, right? So all about keeping your finger on the pulse. If you keep your finger on the pulse, here's the deal. I keep my finger on the pulse. I have zero issues when I see when a flag pops up to just pull the trigger because I keep my finger on the pulse. I always know what's going on. When I see a staff member, even my son, my business partner, when I see him getting burned out, Kyle, what do I do? What did I say to you last week? It was like 3:30, right? You were grinding.
Yeah, you're like, grinding. Yeah, you're like, just take the rest of the day off.
My dude was working. He's at the computer like this. Sweat's pouring off his brow. He's like,
we had a crazy week.
I don't need lunch. I got to get this done. Just grinding, right? 3:30, I was like, bro, what'd I say? I'm like, dude, you've been busting your ass.
Like, you know what? Just take you're busting your ass. Just take the rest of the day. Like, you earned it after the week that you had. Just take the rest of the day. You know what I mean?
It doesn't matter if it's you or me or an employee. The thought process is the same. I'm like, Jimmy, take the rest of the day off, man. You've been grinding it out. Go spend some time with the family. You'll still get paid. Just take the rest of the day off, right? Like, it's not like some kind of tiered reward system. It's just something. Anytime you can do a little thing, do it, right? The team had a great week. Don't do it for just Jimmy. You guys had a great week. Let everyone cut out early, right?
Yeah. Is that
Friday afternoon? If I say we had a killer week, hey everyone, guess what? We had a killer week. It's 12 o'clock, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, cool. Everyone's got the rest of the day off. Or we're all cutting out of here at noon. We're all cutting out of here at 1. Take the rest of the day off. Have a little bit longer weekend. Enjoy time with your families. Thank you guys so much for a great week. Blah, blah, blah. Don't worry. Your pay will be there. Da, 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 da. Right? And the rest of the team leave. Guess what happens? If I thank them and let them leave at their normal time, or we do, and we thank them, high fives, everyone celebrating, whatever, right? They get paid for what they do. They get paid. They get paid well for what they do, right? That's not the point, dude. That's not the point. Next week, they'll come in, they'll do the same thing, and then do the same thing the following week, same thing, right? But guess what? If those little things, hey guys, take the rest of the day off. I don't care because I know by doing that next week, they're going to come and work even harder. And if they don't, they're going to put up they're going to put in the same kind of energy that they put in the previous week when we killed it.
Yeah.
And by giving them a couple of hours off, I pay them a few extra hours. That's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I would pay all that extra salary I paid out. I would pay gladly every single week if they do that. I'll give them 4-day work weeks and pay them for 5. I don't care. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I want to do whatever what makes the most sense for the company. I don't care about my personal feelings. Dude, I grew up in an era, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Like, you got to work, da-da-da. Don't call in sick. Dude, I have years and years and years. Yeah, I can't even tell you how many, right? I didn't call in sick a single day forever. 60 to 80 to 90-hour weeks constantly, all the time, for months on end, right?
You know, like it got to the point where like even when like you were like super sick and you're like, oh, I'm going into work. Mom was like, no, you're not. Like you were staying home, and Dad was like, I have to go. I have to. You know what I mean? Like it was.
If I wasn't literally like this is the mentality I took, right? Because my mentor was the same way when I was very young. When I was your age, my mentor was just like, he actually said this to me all the time. Like if I'm not bleeding, if I can physically move or have somebody move me and I'm not bleeding out of my eyes, I'm gonna be at work.
Yeah.
And I never missed a day for like 15 years from that day forward, or some crazy thing like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a lot. It's a lot, right? Self-care, self-health, mental health, it's all outrageously important.
Yeah, it's super important, 100%.
And people that don't recognize that are the ones that are going to suffer, right? Because they're stuck in the old school mentality. The same problem with people trying to start businesses and figuring out what their niche is. They take this old school mentality, right? Well, what do you want to do? I want to open a drugstore. I want to open a corner convenience store. I want to open a print company. I want to open a this or that or whatever. And they're like, cool, go ahead. Like, that's not a niche. That's an industry. You know what I mean? So, but back in the day, that's how it was. You just want to open a business. Cool. What kind of business do you want to open? Oh, I want to open this. I want to open a laundromat. Awesome. Good luck. How much you need to do that? I don't know, 30 grand, 40 grand. Cool. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But then when it comes to where to pick the location, right? That's when it all falls apart because they don't understand their niche or their clientele base that they're going for enough to really break it down, right? And I'm not saying everyone. People do. People do. Over the course of a 5-year period from when they start, 10% of them know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think
obviously that was a blanket statement. I don't mean to, like, there's a lot I had other businesses that went out of business in 5 years, and I understood all this most of this back then. But at the end of the day, there are mitigating circumstances that come into play for everyone. But at the end of that, it doesn't matter. Don't give up. You know what? Open 100 small businesses. Open one. It doesn't work. It fails. Fuck it. Open another one that doesn't work. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Just keep going because guess what? You only need one to work one time.
Yeah.
That's it. You only need your idea to work once. Right? And then if that, so you just do an idea. If that doesn't work, do another idea. If that doesn't work, do another idea. Yeah. Right? If you love an idea so much 100%. That you just can't go away from it, then figure out a way to make it work. Micro niche it down and find a way to make it work. If you want to be in the hair accessory business and you just can't figure out what's going on, how to get the thing in, maybe there's some weird kind of hair clip or something that you can decorate in this really interesting way and just do that and really market that hard. When I say market it in a lot of different ways, and you don't have to spend money to market either, right?
Yeah.
Right?
No, yeah, you definitely don't. That's a don't spoil. You've already tried to spoil multiple podcast topics. Sorry, timeout. You've already talked about AI. That's a podcast topic that we're going to talk about, and now you're talking about marketing. That's another podcast topic. I'm about to cut the podcast off before you can spoil all the rest of our fucking podcasts coming down the line.
These are just tidbits for the future, you guys.
Oh, got you. Yeah, So these are future podcasts, everyone. So if you're interested in those kind of things. But I do think this is a good spot to call it a wrap on this podcast. So thank you everyone for listening. Any final thoughts on niches? Anything you want to?
Seriously, just find something you love, and if you find something you love, and you can't figure out how to get in it, Google. I want to open a whatever type of business. How can I find a niche or a micro niche? Google it. Or, no, seriously, hit me up personally. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone that wants to open a business or any business that's open. I love to talk. I'll talk to anybody anytime. I will make time for you, I promise.
He really does. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to check out all of our social media. My Dance Locker on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, on YouTube. This podcast will be streamed on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music, as well as going on YouTube. Make sure to check all those places out. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
All right. See you guys later.